Hey all, I wanted to take some time to kind of go over how you can actually detect an AI image, an AI generated image. There's a lot of videos that I'm seeing that are people like, oh, look at the hands, look at the eyes, look at things that anybody that's been in the industry for graphics and photography and video editing and just rendering in general knows that you don't look at those types of things when it comes time to looking at these Excel models that are generating things way better than photography, right? I say better because it's more human than human. That's why a lot of the people, if they see something that looks good, will be convinced that it is real because, clearly a painter must have painted it, right? So I kind of wanted to go over what you can actually look for in an image so that you can actually tell. Okay, so right off the bat, you can kind of tell this is fake. You could tell like the plastic around the muzzles aren't real, whatever else. I generated this several months ago, right? Doesn't really matter. But the classic issues are still prevalent. If you're in any graphics program, GIMP, Photoshop, whatever it is, you could see the channels. Check out the channels and you notice all of the noise patterns are exactly the same. 100% the same across every single channel. That right there is number one as to why this is an AI generated image. Let's take a photo from my phone. I believe this would be a CCD. You could tell it's JPEG encoded. You could tell that things look low quality, but there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. You'll notice, see around the edges right there, the noise patterns change. If you're looking at that right there, that noise pattern changes in between all of the channels. That is the CCD, that is the photography equipment actually causing an issue, along with it now being encrypted in JPEG. So now you're working with JPEG compression, which you can kind of see, even right here, is like this is the edge of a JPEG compressed section of the image. This right here is a JPEG chunk. I don't know the proper term for it, but you can tell within that chunk, you'll have varied noise patterns that change between channels, and you notice that the JPEG chunk right next to it doesn't alter as much as the one I just had highlighted. Sure, it has higher, it's brighter, the more contrast. Yes, I'm simply saying that this is a strong indicator that this was a real photography, a real camera taken photo. It also looks janky as hell, but I'm just saying, you just look at the channels, that's all. Let's take another one. The same type of thing. I took it with my phone. You're still going to see noise patterns that differ on every single channel, and the compression of the JPEGs. That like this square right there. There is very noticeable. Again, this is JPEG. So why don't I go back to something that would be. I mean, you could tell this is AI too, another horse or whatever, but how can you spot that this is not done by a human? Besides the eyes being jacked up, besides the horse looking weird, besides the pile of money looking like spaghetti, the shaker looks like I don't know what the hell is going on here. Besides the vastly different changes of style, that this looks like a photograph, this looks like it's motion graphic, this has some weird comic vibe, this is all kind of comic, this has some weird hyper-realistic, doesn't matter, right? This could still be painted by a person. However, you zoom in and you see JPEG compression issues like this, and you realize, I'm looking at a PNG file. This is PNG. It is not encoded. It is lossless encryption, right? Perhaps it is going through a JPEG encryption on the back end. No, I've modified this code to generate this. This is going off of the Stable Diffusion XL model. I'm generating it on the fly through all of the numpy, not encrypting into JPEG or anything, right? This is what you get out of the program. Why is there JPEG compression errors in a black and white photo? That right there. AI. You're not going to get that unless it was converted into a JPEG, and then how can you tell that it's actually supposed to be a JPEG? You have those sections that I was talking about before. You don't get single pixel JPEG errors. That's not how JPEGs work. JPEGs work by going, this should be a block right here, and then this should be a block right here. Those blocks blur together. That's how you can tell when a photo that is a JPEG or used to be a JPEG is actually a JPEG. Even for phones that, I mean, my phone is only a couple years old, right? Even for these, actually this photo is probably way longer than that. Even with these, you can still spot squares that are within a sort of grid. I'm trying to find, here you go. These are a lot easier to spot. There you go. So this is probably a 4x4 rather than the 2x2 I just selected. So these are probably chunked up into 4x4s. Could it be more? Could it be? There's a lot of JPEG as far as I know, there's different ways of compressing JPEGs within the sizing that it's searching for. Maybe I might be mistaken for that. I'm really only familiar with it being set sizes. So if you don't see a set size of noise pattern, and especially when it's these yellows and purples, that is highly indicative of being JPEG compression errors, meaning the model was trained on JPEGs, meaning the model was learning errors in photography. So how do you spot if a photo is AI? You look for errors that are indicative of the hardware that it was taken on, being CCD is better for bright environments, and you'll see a lot more blockiness and noise in the blue channel at nighttime. Then you have CMOSs that are backlit. Some of that, I think there might be some non-backlit. I'm not a photographer. This is all stuff that I'm remembering from just years of being on sets, and well, not years of being on sets, but being on sets, being in productions, doing filming. Like, basically what you have is kind of a backlit. So it's better for taking photography at night. So a lot of the times, if you're taking time lapses of stars, you'll probably want a CMOS because it's going to get a lot better blue channel, a lot better nighttime photography. So if you're training something that has taken a photo on a CMOS, but also training it on a CCD, you're going to have conflicting noise patterns between the channels. And for how AIs learn, there's a fair chance it will normalize those variances to an even pattern because it's looking for the common noise. It's looking for a common value that it can kind of propagate. Here's a blatant example of JPEG compression on an AI-generated image. You notice that the JPEG compression is only around the edges. That's what happens on JPEGs. You will only get those types of effects around edges. However, there's no JPEG artifacts over here. There's some JPEG artifacts here, but there's none here. Meaning that this was never converted to a JPEG and back to a PNG. This was always a PNG and was made with those errors in there. Now, just to play devil's advocate with myself here, so that you can know if I remember correctly, where is my sharpen? Something just fell behind my desk and I don't know what it was. Let's just go sharpen and let's just go ham on making sure this is sharp. I just went too big. Let's go ham on making it sharp. You will start to see those JPEG kind of compressions exacerbated and start to show up. So yes, you can get this effect with a style, with your look. If you want to add fake JPEG compression, sharpen the hell out of it. But do realize that if it doesn't look like it's part of the style, I'm going to say it's AI generated. So just to recap, because I was skating around this for a while and talking about how the different channels would have different noise patterns, the noise patterns will appear on AI generated images. You will see those noise patterns, but again, it'll be isolated. You'll see like there's maybe a different noise pattern on specifically the muzzle around the horse itself than on the horse itself. And then again, once there's a shared noise pattern that you can't differentiate any of the pixels, that they are an even noise pattern, it's lock and shut and close the case. It's AI, like at that point. So I just want to show you that this is a type of stuff. Here, even this is clearly it could have been painted, right? This could have been a cool piece that somebody spent a lot of time on. I love amethyst. I love the concept of it. I love like the purples, the blues, the weird mixtures of stuff. What is that noise pattern? Does this look like a photo to you? No, these aren't photos. That noise pattern is a photography noise pattern, and none of it makes sense. It's all these weird vertical lines and these kind of isolated areas of lattices that shouldn't exist in here. This is AI generated, clearly. Where does this noise pattern come from? And then, not to mention the additional JPEG everywhere. So, and just to prove, again, that the JPEG is part of the system, you don't see that JPEG compression on this other horse photo. But then, if I go down here, you see the other type of JPEG compression where you get these hard edges on things, which I'm not going to venture into because this happens a lot of the time when you're trying to remove the matte on something and you have like an edge. That edge, if it's matted to 0 in the training process, let's say you are training on PNG images where there's potentially a transparency. Training on that transparency is good. Are they doing that in their models? I don't know, because you can't generate a transparent image. So I'm going to assume that they would have pre-multiplied, which is an act of basically removing the alpha channel, more or less, and it kind of applies it in a way that you can see what you're trying to work with. In many cases, if you don't remove the matte correctly or the edge correctly, you will have these dark lines, bright lines, weird edges. It'll look like it's on a sky background, even though right here it's black. It could have been a choice done by the AI, even though it decided to stop making that choice. It looks weird, like. Either way. So I'm not going to call that out as like a distinct factor of something, but you're not going to see this unless somebody took a photo of snow and tried to comp it or put it over top of the horses. So yes, that could be human done, but the chances of it being varied like that, and if you're doing a matte removal, you know, there's so many ways of doing it. I'm not going to say that there's a right way of doing it. So yeah, there's a chance that there could be edges like that. So no, watch for JPEG compression, watch for the different channels just to check for your noise patterns. If it is all the same noise pattern, you know it's a problem. If it is all like this weird computer generated noise pattern when clearly it looks like it should have been painted, that's also a problem. You're looking for inconsistencies between what the hardware would have provided for the file type, for the devices used to create the photo, and how the photo is presenting itself. If there are errors in the photo, that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for hands. If anybody else has tried to learn how to paint and draw hands, you're probably looking at messed up AI hands and going, hey, that's not that bad. So maybe take a step back. Don't look at things like that. It's always these weird congruent lines that it can't cross that 64 pixel boundary, that if you jump 64 pixels to 64 pixels, if there's edges that can't seem to connect, that's another indicator. But I'm not even going to start venturing down that, because I guarantee you that issue is going to be solved within like a month or 3, because everything else has been. I'm just going to call it there. That I've been seeing too many videos that just seem like they're approaching how to detect an AI image in, you know, valid ways, but I feel like there's a better way to figure that out, and I hope this covers it. And I'm sure there's more ideas. If I come up with more concepts, I'll put them in the description. And until that, I hope everyone has a good day. Have a good one.